Hey everybody, so it's Jazz here, and it's actually like 8:37 p.m. and I've got a little candle going, so that's like our background light. But anyway, I want to do a little chat video. So one of the things that has really been an interesting topic for me to think about is I was asked the question at one point, what advice did I give my younger self? So one of the things that really kind of made me really start thinking about this was the fact that I think that you really shouldn't care about other people's opinions, especially when it comes to things that you want to do, things that have been a calling on your life, what you want to specifically do, your dream. I wrote down some things about relating to how I feel like my life would be different if I followed the advice of people. Some of those actually do include my parents because as much as even like just in general, our parents can always mean well, but sometimes again, they're people just like everyone else, and they may also not understand your vision. That's a spiritual thing for me. That's also just a general thing for me as well. Even your closest friends may not understand what your journey is. So part of that is that personally, I do think that the advice I would give myself is, first of all, just stop caring what other people think, because it's just not going to go away. And actually, it's funny, I was doing my weekly Bible study earlier, and it was looking at scriptures relating to the theme that I wanted to focus on, which is being bold. And so one of the things I really was thinking about was the fact that one of those things actually was, one of the stories that came up was about Peter and John. So this is after Jesus' resurrection, and they're preaching the gospel based off of what they believe and what they've seen. And they're told to stop preaching, to stop judgment, hating, literally, it's just part of the process. And eventually, it came to pass that the results of what they were doing there was a fulfillment of what they were doing, and other people were saved, and there were people who were able to receive the gospel. And it just makes me think that, what would have happened if those people weren't able to be saved and to know God if they actually took those people's advice? There's a scripture where it says in Acts chapter 4 verse 13, it says, "Now when they saw the boldness of Peter and John and perceived that they were unlearned and ignorant men, they marveled and they took knowledge of them that they had been with Jesus." So I just thought that was really fascinating, because it's like people perceive them to be a certain way. They're casting judgments based off what they see. But the results that they got, they still understood that they had walked with Jesus and they had seen his resurrection. And so they're like, we're not going to stop preaching. And they called unto them and commanded them not to speak at all, nor teach in the name of Jesus. So it says, "But Peter and John answered and said unto them, Whether it be right in the sight of God to hearken unto you more than unto God, judge ye. For we cannot but speak of the things which we have seen and heard." So I just honestly, that was just kind of like what I was thinking about when I read that this afternoon. So I honestly just feel like that's the biggest thing I would really say, is that I've come to terms with the fact that there are people out there that don't like me. I'm pretty sure there's people probably watching this don't like a thing about me, are completely against everything that I talk about and against everything that I believe in, and that's perfectly fine. But again, you're not going to stop me from talking about things that I care about. You're not going to stop me from fulfilling what I feel like I'm meant to do, because my life is not mine. My life belongs to God. That's what I believe. There's always going to be people who are going to judge you. There are people who don't understand. And part of it is when you get a lot of judgment, or when you are getting hate from certain people, is a lot of times it really has nothing to do with you. It's just the fact that it's what you're talking about, especially biblically. These are new concepts. People haven't heard of it, and people are afraid of things that they don't know about. It's just a general scenario. People don't always. It's easy to criticize things that you don't understand. And a lot of people do that, and it takes a lot of work to be curious enough to to go ahead and, learn more about it. Learning about something takes effort. As a multilingual, there are a lot of people who feel that, I'm like, yeah, I would love to learn a language, but they don't really take the initiative to do that. It's like, yeah, I don't know what they're talking about. There are people who get scared when they're in environments where they don't understand. But my question has always been, how do I make myself understand? If that makes sense. I've always felt that you are capable of learning about something. Like for me, there was someone that I met, my boss had actually officiated her wedding. And she was from Russia originally, and her now husband is an American. And so I had so many questions because I've never really, even though I've met people in my life who are from Russia, but I've never really been curious about their perspective, because all I really know from the news from media is Putin and bears and vodka, like whatever it is, like the stereotype is. And I really was like, I want to get a more well-rounded perspective. What part of Russia are you from? Are there different dialects? I just kind of want to understand. And I had questions, and she said, oh, you know what? Because obviously she was getting married. So she's like, here's my number, my email, just reach out to me and we'll just sit down and have a conversation. And we actually went to coffee. I think we went, and then we got dinner one other time, like twice. We met up twice. And I learned so much. It takes no effort. People actually overestimate how much effort it takes to really get to know somebody. I really wanted to understand, it turns out we had a lot of similar experiences from being foreigners. Obviously, she's a foreigner here in America, but I have lived in a foreign country before. So we kind of related to our similar struggles that we have, But yeah, I just think that people don't understand. They criticize things that they don't understand. It's just a given. So it's just accept it. And I think that as a person who has been a people pleaser, I feel like for me, I really want to be bold in the things. And I would tell myself that, like my 14-year-old self, who gives a damn? People are always out there hating, is what it is. And one of the things I would think about how my life would be different if I had listened to that, some of those include my parents, is my moving to California. I remember I had at 18 decided I was going to move to California. I had found the school that I was looking at. I've been looking at fashion school since I was like 13-14 years old. I knew I was going to go. I took the initiative to find out where I wanted to go to college, because when my parents were like, you should start thinking about where you're going to go to college. I'm like, oh, I already know. I've talked to all these admissions advisors. So I took the initiative to do everything myself at that point in time. And my mom actually said that she went to California to visit the college to say no. But given the fact that it was a college that I had chosen and there was a lot of support that was there, and basically she felt like I was going to be left in good hands, there was a lot of opportunities, and she just couldn't say no at that point. So, and that doesn't mean when I say these things about how, I'm not saying that you shouldn't listen to your parents, because I know that parents mean well, and it is within my own personal faith is that there is one of the 10 commandments is to honor thy mother and father. However, at the same time, I just think that me being a person of faith is that, of course, my parents are, people that raised me. I know who God is because of my parents. I have values that I pretty much have stuck to because of my parents. But when it comes to spiritual callings, again, they're human beings, and they may not always be able to understand what God is telling you. And it's not for them to understand. So if they don't understand, screw it. Who cares? It's not, it's not for them. It's for you. So for me, that was a big step, because a lot of, not even just my parents, there are other people who are like, why would you want to go that far away? You're from Kentucky. And I wanted something new. I just felt like where I was a comfort zone. I just felt like I was stagnant. I still sometimes feel like that way because I am now back in Kentucky. But when I was in California, I really had to learn how to rely on myself and my own faith. And I think sometimes you really don't know what you're capable of until you're left by yourself to where you have to be the one to figure it out. I think that when you are a person who's always hiding behind your parents, like, oh, if I get in trouble, I'll call my parents. Again, love my parents and all those things. But I think that as a person of faith, it's like, well, what's going to come out of you when you're in trouble, when you're at adversity? I've been at a point where I was living with 8 other people in a co-living space, and I was still struggling to figure out how to pay $800 in rent a month. Right now, I wish my rent was $800. But I honestly think that you don't really know what you're capable. I mean, for me to, there's one point in my life where I was facing possible eviction. I got a notice that said, pay your rent in 3 days or you move out. And so eventually I figured it out. But the thing is the point is that I learned how to figure it out. I figured out, what can I do to make sure that I stay afloat? My parents weren't there. They were thousands of miles away, and I had to figure it out. And that sometimes people think that that's like a terrible thing. Like, this is the worst thing that can happen to me. No, it's the best thing for you, because you get to learn what you're capable of. And I think that says a lot about you. I think you should be out of your comfort zone. I remember when I went to Mexico for the first time, my mom told me, why are you going? It's dangerous. And I'm like, that's fear mongering, because again, media portrays Mexico as a certain way. Obviously, I think as a person who travels, you should always be well informed. You should always travel with someone who knows the area. You should do your research beforehand. You shouldn't just be like, whatever, and just really being informed. So for me, I had a really great time. I went during Day of the Dead weekend, and I was with my friend he was an exchange student when I was in college, and I said, next year I'm going to come visit you. And I had a great time. I got a cultural experience. I met people. I got to practice my Spanish. And for me, as a person who speaks multiple languages, is that is constantly a situation where you're putting yourself in a position where you're uncomfortable. Because sometimes I'm in a position where English is not going to get me anywhere. And so I have to constantly challenge myself and see, how well did I train myself to learn this language? Can I communicate? I've had instances where things that I have said made absolutely no sense. And I'm like, unscramble your brain, Jazz. Unscramble it. Okay, now we can think of a response. So, I mean, I've had the instances where I've been in places where I didn't understand what was going on. So I was very silent. I'm just listening and just seeing what I understand. And you got to make mistakes, because I think that one of the things that people try to avoid is mistakes. And I'm guilty of that like tenfold all the time. Sometimes I'm avoiding painful experiences. And by painful, I mean like emotionally painful, like rejection, failure. It's part of the process. You can't get better without it. That was a big thing for me, And then after that, I went to Mexico again because my friend got married there. My mom was like, really? And I lost my phone the first day I got there. I was so mad. But the thing is, of course, because I was so upset, because I was like, I know for a fact if I don't respond in 24 hours and I'm in Mexico, which my mom has been very skeptical about, I'm pretty much gonna make my mom have an aneurysm. So I was like, okay, I'll just use my friend's phone, text her from WhatsApp. I know her number. I've known her by heart since I was like 8. So, in those types of things, it's like, it's what it is. And you just kind of have to go with it. You have to learn to be resourceful. Went to Germany to be an au pair. My mom was so against that. She actually stopped talking. She did not want to talk. I remember going into her office one time and she just started crying because I went. And if you've ever watched or listened to my podcast, Destination Deutschland, I really did talk about that experience day to day. And even though there were some negative and positive experiences, I actually learned a lot from that experience. I mean, I think that my mom likes to demonize that experience. Like, it was so bad, and your host family, whatever it was. But I'm like, it's part of the process. And I learned a lot about what I value when it comes to relationships. Because I did have a host family that had some marriage issues. I was with another host family before that who had, I think she was like depressed or something. She had to go to rehab for like 6 weeks or something like that. And, there's certain dynamics that I had to deal with. And I realized that there are certain things when it comes to relationships that I don't really want to have. I mean, I witnessed some misogyny and I realized that is not something that I would like. I mean, I remember with my host dad, for my second family, I remember some of the things he said. I would never want to be married to someone who would talk about me like that. And being in a relationship is a personal thing. You really don't know what that's going to look like. You don't know who you're going to fall for. But I think that when it comes to your relationships, you should always be extremely clear about what you want. So that's one of the things. And I love that experience. I had met so many people. I had experience where we have a family friend that lives in Dormagen. So I got to spend time with her neighbors during Christmas time. And I learned, I learned what Polish sounds like at the time. And so I was uncomfortable. Even though I didn't speak Polish, I was really kind of like trying to figure out what, like, based on like their body language and the tone, what they were trying to talk about. And they watched a lot of Polish TV and they would explain to me in German what they were talking about. I mean, and my German improved so much during that experience. So I think that anytime you have a negative experience, or you think like, oh, this is the worst thing that could happen to me, the one important thing for you to really think about in those experiences is, what do I learn from this? What can I learn from this? Because everything's a learning experience. In life, you're gonna have challenges. Bad things are gonna happen. It's just part of life. And if you thought life was gonna be sunshine and rainbows, I'm so sorry to disappoint you. There are certain things that I think that you should have a really big dream. Like, what do you really want? And from there, you don't really need to worry about the steps to getting there. Obviously, I think it's important to have a plan, actionable steps to getting towards where you're going to go. But I also feel like you shouldn't have to worry about what you don't have. Because for me, I just feel like when you worry about what you don't have, instead of worrying about what you have or what can I do to get what I don't have, you have a different mindset. It's like how abundant-minded people and scarcity-minded people are very different. And I've kind of been in the scarcity mindset before, based on circumstances. But the thing about scarcity is like always using phrases like, I don't have, I am not this, those kinds of things. An abundant-minded person would think, what can I do to afford something? What can I do to make this happen? I mean, for me, I'm thinking about the fact that I am going to be turning 28 years old this year. I am, my 20s are getting ready to come to an end. And I honestly am looking forward to 30, because I feel like it's being in your 20s again, but like with more common sense, more knowledge. I mean, one of the things I really would think about, one thing I would really tell my younger self is stop squandering your finances. Like when I was in my early 20s, I was thinking it was great to just go out and eat with friends and be frivolous. I remember I had an $8,000 credit card from American Express. First of all, I don't know why they gave a 21-year-old that. I think it's not, even though like I had made enough money to qualify for that amount of money, it was just mentally, I was not ready to handle that. I mean, because I look back, actually one other time I had to go back and look at my statements from back then because I had a question on something. My bank statements were crazy. I was like, why did you spend this much money on just eating it? I'm like, girl, this is ridiculous. So being smarter. And then I was wondering why I didn't have any money. Like, I'm going to be honest with you. If you can't afford it, don't put it on a credit card. So for me, like, I know like my birthday is actually a French national holiday. And so one of the things for my 30th is I really want to go back and spend a lot more time there. Maybe like, I don't want to go back to Paris because I've been there before. I want to spend time to be able to just go and just spend a month and just experience. Go back and see some friends that I haven't seen since I studied abroad there. Whether you are aspiring to do something that you feel like people may not understand. I'm telling you, if your dream does not make you cry, if it doesn't scare you, if it doesn't keep you up at night, if it does not give you a purpose, you don't have a big enough dream. But if you have something in your heart that you feel like you need to do, I did not expect to be able to speak all these many languages. I did it because I had an experience that showed me that connecting with people was really, really important. That's still the same mission that I have today. All these experiences I've had people who told me, you're stupid. Why would you want to do that? I mean, I remember when I was an au pair, someone told me, like one of my cousin told me, he's like, you're not getting paid a lot. He's like, you can go and work at this factory, that place that he worked, make this much amount of money. And it's not about the money. You can't put a price on that experience. Again, that experience was really great, good and bad. I enjoyed every minute of it. I hated that I had to leave, but I don't like the cycle of like, chasing money, because at the same time it's like, of course I have a business, I have an asset, I have investments. I am very much working towards financial independence, but it's not about working. Like, it's like, oh, like that's a job. It's like, no, it's not a job. It's a way for me to get experience. And again, like I was saying before, people won't understand what you're trying to do, but that's not their job. So I think that you get less frustrated with other people when you realize that, like, people aren't going to understand it. And like when you're getting frustrated trying to make someone understand something that's only meant for you, I'm telling you, that's a lot of stress that would be lifted off your shoulder if you don't worry about it. Stop trying to convince people stuff that's not meant for them. That's for you. So that's what I have for you guys today. I hope that your 2025 has been off to a great start. So anyway, I love you guys. I hope that you guys are inspired. I hope that what I said can really help you with whatever it is that you're aspiring to do. I'll talk to you all in the next video. All right, bye.